with contracts expiring this year and more. This is Wrestling Rambles. My name is John, and you're watching the Wrestling Report. Before we move on, make sure you subscribe to Wrestling Rambles with notifications on, and don't forget to like the video. Asked about her issues with AEW TBS champion Mercedes Moné, former women's world champion for the promotion, Britt Baker said this to Ringside Collectibles at the 2024 San Diego Comic-Con. "I would flip that on you. I would say I'm more of a thorn in her side because now I'm back and the games are over. You can't just look in the mirror and pretend. Now you have to live up to it, and you're not the face of the division. I am. So who's the thorn and whose side? It's me, because I'm the friendly reminder that you're full of sh." After sustaining a knee injury during SmackDown on December 18th, 2023, Charlotte Flair would end up needing surgery. Now she has been seen training in a ring at the WWE Performance Center. Here's the clip. Ringside News added that furthermore, a recent report by Sean Ross Sapp stated that Charlotte Flair tore 3 ligaments in her knee about 8 months ago, and further anticipated that she may be out for an additional 2 to 3 months. In the meantime, Flair is starring in a horror/thriller movie titled You Lose, You Die, providing fans with something to look forward to during her absence from in-ring competition. Explaining why he might have retired from pro wrestling this year if he had been inducted into the WWE Hall of Fame, Tommy Dreamer told Wrestling News, "Of course, I mean, it's a great benchmark for your career. I thought if there was ever a place, Philadelphia would be a great place. I always say my real name is Tom Lawlin, and I was born in Yonkers, New York, but Tommy Dreamer was born in Philadelphia. And I thought it would have been a great button of a career. I probably would have announced my retirement if it happened. Not that I want to ever stop wrestling, but if I could have had a perfect circle moment, I probably would have done that. And when I say I'm never going to wrestle again, I'm never going to wrestle again. It'll be hard for me because I love wrestling. I just wrestled last night. I have 5 shows in a row coming up this week, and then we're off to TNA. I love wrestling. I do about 200 shows a year, and I love connecting and meeting fans and people sharing their stories with me. I marked out so big when I saw Dusty Rhodes show up at the Tabernacle in ECW, and Paul, he comes running up to me like 2 fans. He's like, and this is Tommy Dreamer in his prime, and he's like, I have something for you. And I'm like, what? He goes, Dusty Rhodes is here. I'm like, wait, what? And he's like, do you want to meet him? I was like, oh my god, yes. And then I'm like, oh wait, I gotta kind of be cool like the Fonz. And I'm walking over, and this is when I first meet Dusty Rhodes. And if anyone has ever met Dusty had such, he had the perfect smile and the perfect way to greet you. He just turned to me and was like, Tommy Dreamer, so nice to meet you. And I said, you're the reason I do this. I said, you're the reason I took my name. And I was just like, you're my idol. And he just looked back and he was like, thank you so much. I'm a fan of your work. And I was just like, but you're the reason I do this. Then we became super duper close. Anyway, what I'm saying is I get those fan reactions. I get all that to have my name where my mentor, Terry Funk, my hero, Dusty Rhodes, the guy who helped me and saw something in me when no one else did, Paul Heyman, of course. It would be an honor. It's one of the greatest honors that you can have in your career to be inducted into any Hall of Fame. Recently, Goldberg had this to say to Bret Hart over Hart continuing to criticize his abilities as a wrestler. As you know, Goldberg landed a stiff kick to Hart in WCW that would lead to the end of Hart's pro wrestling career. Goldberg said this on Busted Open Radio. The Bret Hart thing is it just saddens me as a human being. That's all. I mean, first and foremost, I would never wish ill will upon any opponent or anyone like that to have an accident like that happen and end someone's career, especially someone who's, one of the best that ever was. 100%, it sucks. I'm not asking anybody to understand it. I'm just saying, just leave me alone. Yes, sir, about warning him the kick was coming. Put your hand up. Do whatever you got to do, man. It is what it is. Come on, man. I love you, Bret. Don't be such a prick. That's all. Grow up. Bret Hart responded to these recent comments when asked about them on Signed by Superstars, saying, I don't pay much attention to Bill. I don't know anyone that does. Talking about a potential promo segment with himself and The Rock, former WWE star Enzo Amore told Wrestling Shoot interviews, it's the inevitable one day that I'm the greatest promo of my generation and I'm out there with the greatest promo of his generation, The Rock. How does this not happen? For me, it's a manifestation of my childhood dreams. I have a picture of me when I met Dwayne Johnson backstage of me holding his action figure on Christmas morning. When I met Dwayne Johnson backstage, I showed it to him and he posted a picture of us on his Instagram, and that was really cool. But that was my hero when I was a kid. The whole goal is to have your idols become your rivals. So if I look at the top of the business, this is where I see myself. That's where I want to be, and I'm gunning for somebody's spot. If you're in the WWE right now and you know that I'm out here working as hard as I am on the indies, wrestling every single weekend, shaking hands and kissing babies and doing all the right things, I would be so fearful of the man who has to stand in front of me. I'm the guy that you have to fear. I'm the one that you're not thinking about right now. When I show up, is going to hit the fan, because any man can piss on the floor. It takes a great man to on the ceiling. Prior to Monday Night Raw, Triple H would greet former WWE star Jesse the Body Ventura backstage. Mentioning a star he would like to be involved with on screen in pro wrestling, Sycho Sid told Attitude Era podcast, Brock Lesnar, that's who I'd like to work with, you know, as a dream match today. Me and him would draw money. It just hit me right now. I would like to also be his manager, you know, because we had some things in common. People compare us, and I don't know why he doesn't do his own talking. He seems like he's pretty good when he does talk, but I think I'd be a much better introduction for him than Paul Heyman was. Sharing the stage with Orange 9mm MVP, who is likely set to see his contract with WWE expire soon, said this to those in attendance for the show.
Something real quick. Make some noise for how Sally Shannon. Quick story. When I was a teenager, I made some bad decisions. And I used to listen to a band called Orange 9mm when I was in prison. After 9.5 years, the first show that I went to when I got out was the Vans Warped Tour. I introduced myself to Brother Chaka and he said, hey man, welcome home. Hang out with us for the rest of the day. That was fun as fun. But I got my shit together and I became a professional wrestler. I worked for a company, some of you may have heard of it, WWE. So all these years later, I'm not sitting on my prison bunk listening to Orange 9mm. I'm standing on the stage. Let's go. This is called Sacrifice.
Stating the value of CM Punk over Drew McIntyre as the two were set to face off at SummerSlam, Dutch Mantel noted on his Storytime podcast, see, CM Punk can talk. I don't think Drew McIntyre, can talk like CM Punk can. He goes out and talks to them and, you know, see, I'm not the big Cody Rhodes fan that everybody else is. What do you want to talk about? That's over, but I think he's probably worth more than Drew a little bit. Staying on the topic of the feud between Drew McIntyre and CM Punk, TNA World Champion Nick Nemeth said this about it on Busted Open Radio. Punk getting injured is the best thing to happen to this story times a million. It's not the old days, but it would have been like they would have had 3 matches and it would have been each of them getting a win, and then maybe they might do a cage or something, and it's like, okay, we got it. Instead, you don't get the match. It's almost like it's the 80s again when there's 4 pay-per-views a year, and you've got to wait 6 or 7 months to get to see this payoff. Touching on WWE's interest in a current AEW star, Ringside News noted that Sean Ross Sapp has reported on Fightful Select that Penta's AEW contract is set to expire this year, and WWE has shown interest in him. However, he's not the only one, as his Lucha Brothers teammate Rey Fenix also sees his contract expire this year. The exact expiration dates for their contracts have not been nailed down yet. It was further reported that AEW wants to retain Fenix and Penta, and there were offers extended in contract talks. There is no current word about how those talks have been. Fenix, much like Penta, is expected to have interest from WWE. Both men have been with All Elite Wrestling since 2019, and they had a nice run as 2/3 of the Death Triangle faction alongside Pac. Explaining his band's interactions with WWE as they created Rey Mysterio's Booyaka 619 theme, lead vocalist and co-founder of POD, Sonny Sandoval, said this on Drinks with Johnny. Sometimes we've done stuff with WWE, and because WWE is so huge, they're so powerful of an empire, even back then. But they could say, can we use your music? Yes, okay? We're not going to pay you for it. But because we're WWE, you're going to get so much press, and you know what I mean? And get so much hype. And at some point, you're like, dang, okay, I guess so. Because even now, I still hear it when Rey comes out. Rey Mysterio WrestleMania. You're like, dude, they're still playing our jam. Big shout out to Mad One. It's like, they're still playing our tune, but we ain't seeing none of that. It's a game, bro. It's a game. In some unfortunate news, a pro wrestler has passed away, with Ringside News writing that the world of professional wrestling has suffered another loss with the passing of Pistol Pete Sanchez, Ric Flair's first WWE opponent, who passed away on July 27th. Pete Sanchez was known for his role as an enhancement talent, contributing significantly to various promotions such as Worldwide Wrestling Federation, WWF, Stampede Wrestling, Amarillo Wrestling, and the Midwest Wrestling Association. Renowned wrestling journalist Bill Apter shared that Sanchez had been battling an illness for some time, praising his work ethic and describing him as a genuinely pleasant person to work with. Throughout his career, Sanchez participated in numerous memorable matches, including his bout against Ric Flair at Madison Square Garden on March 1st, 1976. This match was particularly significant as it marked Flair's debut in a McMahon-endorsed ring, following a devastating plane crash in October 1975 that nearly ended Flair's career. Going over the situation surrounding Sammy Guevara's return to AEW in the form of a Ring of Honor, Ringside News wrote that although fans were expecting to see the Spanish God come back to AEW television, that's not what happened. Instead, Sammy Guevara's return to the ring as part of Ring of Honor has led some fans to speculate on social media that he wasn't brought back to the AEW brand due to an issue with one of the top stars at the company. That doesn't seem to be the case. Guevara has been out of action after being suspended in February following a match with Jeff Hardy, where he did not follow concussion protocols. His suspension ended long before his return to action this weekend. Up until last week, there was no word on his status until he let fans know on X that he and Ty Mello were training to get back in the ring. During Wrestling Observer Live, Brian Alvarez addressed the speculation, saying he was told that Guevara being used in Ring of Honor has nothing to do with the 2020 situation. Alvarez stated, "I know that everybody has immediately jumped to the following conclusion, that he was moved to Ring of Honor because Mercedes Moné is on the main AEW television show. I was told that him being on Ring of Honor Honor has absolutely nothing to do with Mercedes. I mentioned that to some people and they were like, there's no way it has to be. All I can tell you is this, Sammy has been ready to go for a little while, and they did have a storyline for Sammy Guevara that would have brought him back to the main roster, but there was an aspect of the storyline that he was not cool with. I think it involved him turning heel, and he didn't want to turn heel, whatever it was. They did have a storyline, and they decided, well, he doesn't want to do that aspect of the storyline, and so they ended up coming up with a storyline where he's a babyface in Ring of Honor. So there were plans to bring him back to the main roster when Mercedes Mone was there, and it didn't happen. So I'm sure he'll be back on the main roster. I would bet you anything that by the end of the year, he's back doing Dynamite, Collision, etc. In 2020, a video from 2016 surfaced where Guevara was heard saying about Mercedes Mone that he wanted to just go effing rape that woman. Guevara apologized after the video surfaced and said 2016 me is not me today, explaining that his comment was an attempt to use shock humor to get reaction. He added, I understand now that the words I say can impact people more than I'll ever understand. Guevara also mentioned that he spoke with Mone in 2020 and she helped him learn a gigantic lesson. For the record, Mercedes Mone decided not to speak out about it publicly in 2020 when it all surfaced. Alvarez also addressed speculation about Guevara being part of Chris Jericho's learning tree, saying that was never the plan.
It's the Maharaja back home after my first weekend as an independent wrestler. Game Changers Wrestling, GCW. If I wasn't contractually obligated and Bret didn't pay me handsomely, there is no way that I would be associated with GCW or Game Changers Wrestling. There's no way I'd be in the ring with someone like Effie. But since I'm there, I'm going to raise GCW to my standards, the standards of a legitimate world champion. Now, what I saw disgusted me in the locker room. Recreational drug use, alcohol, terrible physiques, terrible gear, unprofessionalism. Matt Cardona has done a terrible job as a GM, but that's for a different conversation. So, just want to remind the fans, I will not be signing any autographs. I will not be taking any pictures. There will be no meet and greets. I'm only obligated to wrestle, and that I will do. Maharaja out. So I actually see this comment a lot, and I want to kind of share my opinion on it. WWE dropped the ball on me. I would say that's not true. I had a very long career, 12 years in WWE, WWE champion, won the United States Championship at WrestleMania, made a great living, really set myself up for the future for the rest of my life. Give me a sense of financial independence where now I can just do whatever I want to do. Freedom, flexibility, got to travel the world, build amazing relationships, a lot of good memories, and it's going to continue now on the independence, just doing things my way. So WWE did not drop the ball. I had a great career. I had a great time. And yeah, thank you for all the fans for tuning in for all these years. So this is an interesting question. Business is business at the end of the day, and business right now for WWE is very, very good. We have Triple H, the Chief Content Officer, in charge of creative, in charge of talent. He's doing a great job. A lot of new superstars are getting a chance to prove themselves in WWE. Some superstars before that never got the chance to. You know, we're seeing them really thrive in this new environment, in this new WWE, the Triple H era. Big changes in production. I personally love the way Raw is presented now. We got new camera angles, new set, continuous shots, less cutting back and forth between shots and cameras. A lot of backstage stuff going on, crowd interactions. I think it's a good time for WWE, and credit to Triple H for really changing things up.
And this was your Pro Wrestling News Update. I hope you're all having a great day. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see y'all later.